All right, so huge news. Text just landed in Rive. It's amazing. So hopefully by now you've gotten a chance to play around with it. In this video, I wanted to show you how you can add a background to your text and have that background resize based on your text box size. So let's go ahead and grab our text tool, and we're just going to drop a default text box in, and we're going to create a rectangle. I'll go ahead and draw that around here, pull it behind our text, and we'll change to a nice magenta color here. All right, perfect. So the first step is to create a custom shape out of our rectangle. So if I hit enter a few times, I can go ahead and generate our custom shape. And the next step is to grab some bones. So we're going to create some bones and put them in the corners of our rectangle here. So we've got our top left, duplicate this one. This is our top right. And we'll grab both of these and pull them down to the bottom corners. So we've got bottom left and bottom right. Okay, so the next thing we want to do, we'll group this first and then we'll move on to the next step. The next thing we want to do is bind these vertices of our custom shape to our bones. So select this, go into edit vertices mode, select our vertices, and then select our bones here. And we'll hit enter to go ahead and complete that. And now we want to make sure that we've got the appropriate weighting to each corner. So it looks like for our top left, need to set that one to 100. For our top right, set that to 100. Our bottom left is the yellow, set that to 100. And our bottom right looks like it's good to go. So we'll go ahead and stop editing there. And now comes the magic. So we're going to add transform constraints to our bones here. And we're going to take a look at a couple of new inputs that we've added. So these are going to make this work. So first we're going to target our text box. And you can see right away that our bone snapped to the top left corner of the text box, which is the origin of that text box. So if I select this, you can see our origin is in that top left corner. So now we can go ahead and add the transform constraint to the rest of our bones. So we'll target the text box. And then we're going to adjust these origin percentages. So you can see right away it snapped to the top left. So if we change this X origin to 100%, it's now going to snap to the top right. So we can go ahead and do the same thing with the rest of our bones, add our transform constraint, target our text box, and then for this one, we want our Y value to be 100%. And finally, our bottom right corner, target our text box, and these values will both be 100. So really that's it. So we've got our background set up, we've got our text, and if we go edit our text here, let's type in button. You can see that our background adjusts and resizes based on our text content. So let's go ahead and leave this up. Just say button. So that's nice, but what if we wanted to, I don't know, add some padding to our button? This is pretty cramped here on the left and right. So for that, what we can do is we can remove these transform constraints, and we're going to add a few groups here. So this is fine as is. What we're going to do is we're going to group each one of these. And the group is actually going to, we're going to apply the transform constraint to the group and then target our button. So let's go ahead and do this. So group this, top left, group this one, top right, group this, bottom left, and group this one, and name this bottom right. So let's go ahead and do the same step we did before. And let's actually make sure that so one thing we need to make sure is that our bone is actually zeroed out. So we want the bone to be in the same position as our group. So let's adjust these values here. So we'll set this to 0, set this to 0, and this just ensures that everything is kind of starting from 0. So now our group and our bone should have the same origin. So that's perfect. Okay, so next we're going to start adding our constraints just like we did before, but here we've selected the group. We're going to select our text box as the target, and we're going to do the same thing we did before, go through all of these, add our transform constraints, adjust our origin values, do the same here. So here we're going to set 100 for Y, and finally for bottom right, we're going to set these both to 100%. Okay, so we basically got the same thing we did before, but we've got a little flexibility in that we can now adjust our padding. So let's start with the top left. So we basically want to move these bones out and away from our text. And we can just start setting some values here. So let's say we want a padding of 8. So we'll go -8, which is going to move it to the left, and then -8 on Y, which is going to move it up. And we can go ahead and do the same thing, just using a little bit of math. We want to add 8 pixels to the right, and we want to move it up 8 pixels. So we're going to do a -8 on Y. And same for bottom left. We'll do 8 on Y and -8 on X. And for the bottom right, these will both be positive values. So there you go. You've added some padding, which you can then adjust by just moving the X and Y position of your bones. And the cool thing with this is our shape is it's just a shape. So we can add some corner radius to it. We can change the color. Let's make a blue. We can add a stroke. We can add fills, so we could actually create a new fill and do a gradient. So you can do anything you can do with a shape. I mean, that's all this is. It's just weighted to some bones, and those are being constrained to the text box size. So let's go ahead and do something like that. So now when we go to edit our button text, do longer button, you can see it's going to resize just like you would expect it to. So I hope that helps. Again, enjoy the new feature, and we'll see you online.